James Lacey here from Sweet Sounds of Fighting. Today we have Pereira's strength and conditioning. Now, this is not any specific strength and conditioning, I guess, build up or fight build up that he was. This is just a whole bunch of clips put together by someone. So, again, making a lot of inferences, nothing against the athlete or the coaches or anything like that. It's just my personal opinion and just letting you know what might be going on in this. So, let's just take this from an exercise standpoint. So Nordic drop or Nordic curls, I guess it's become super popular since whatchamacallit, ATG. I can't remember what it stands for either way. The ATG group with the knees over toes and stuff like that have made it more popular than ever, even though it was very popular within team sports and I guess running based sports a lot. Has value. It's not the absolute panacea of hamstring training, as many people will call it. Yes, it is a super maximal eccentric exercise, which is, I guess, it's good for certain adaptations. And these adaptations are increasing muscle fascicle length. So think about like a bunch of muscle fiber. Like think about your wire cable with all the little wires in it. So a big wire cable, you're going to make that thing longer. You're going to add little blocks of that wire to the end, making the hamstring longer. By making the hamstring longer, or that fascicle length longer, you increase contractile velocity, so how quickly you can contract the hamstrings or how quickly you can produce force, but you also increase the angle that peak torque is generated. So torque is just rotational force. So when we're talking about joints, we're talking rotational force, so torque instead of force, but we'll just use force to make it easy. Essentially, instead of the hamstrings maybe at 90 degrees like this, right? So if we took 90 degrees, knee joint, maybe that's where you produce peak force. But then as you do more eccentric training, maybe that goes to like 110 degrees. That's such a bad example with my hands, I'm sorry. But you get what I mean. And so if you're able to produce more force at longer muscle lengths, you reduce your risk of injury when you get into these funny positions, and all sorts. So that's some of the advantages of doing it. Now, the disadvantages of a Nordic curl or Nordic drop, you stay at short muscle lengths on the hamstring. And when we're talking eccentric and isometric training, the best gains are made at long muscle lengths. So it doesn't mean don't do them. It just means that if you're doing Nordic curls as your hamstring training, you need to do something at the hip. And because the hamstrings cross the knee joint and the hip joint, they're biarticular muscles, so cross two joints. It means to really get them into long muscle lengths, you need to flex at the hip while keeping the knees relatively extended. So I think Romanian deadlifts is a really good example of a exercise that will lengthen the hamstrings to extreme lengths and under relatively heavy loads. So you compare those two together, it's really good for your hamstring stuff. I'll keep this video going because we've only just started into it. We've got some interesting foot stuff. So we talked about this stuff quite a lot on the podcast recently. So the whole idea of reacting to random things like tennis balls and that was like a baton or something like that. So unfortunately, this is entirely useless. You think like you just look at that. You just look at that as is. It doesn't. There's no. I've talked about this a lot in these breakdowns as well. So I'll make a very brief summary of what I've said before, just so I don't bore some people that have watched the ones before. But when we're talking something like this, where he's obviously trying to develop like reaction time here. That's kind of what they're going for. I want to react and be able to catch the tennis ball when it drops and move when he throws a jab, etc. like this. However, when we're talking agility and reactive agility is redundant because agility is reactive because you're reacting to the stimulus. So the stimulus being, it needs to be sport specific. So when we compare sub-elite and elite athletes, and if you compare sub-elite and elite athletes in the same sport, if the elite athletes are better than the sub-elite athletes, that, I guess, quality is deemed important for success in that sport. And when you compare those two athletes, you see change of direction speed. So just the ability to essentially like this, like reaction time or ability to turn in a line and run back is usually similar, or sometimes the sub-elite athletes are often better. But when you add the sport-specific stimulus they have to react to, the elite athletes far outperform the sub-elite athletes. And then when we correlate the two, change of direction, speed, and agility, which is that sport-specific stimulus, there's only a 30%, I guess you could say a 30% overlap of the two. So they're two independent variables. So it means you cannot train reaction time or something like this and have it transfer to something that's happening in MMA. It just doesn't work like that. And elite performers like this, they're not elite because they have this amazing reaction time and can catch tennis balls. They're elite because they can analyze what's happening in front of them, solve the problem, and they've seen a lot of the scenarios in their toolbox to be able to solve that problem and to anticipate what's happening. So for me, this stuff doesn't really do much. So we got some prowler sprints. Cool, nothing wrong with some of those. Oh yeah, some Olympic weightlifting derivatives. I like this. This looks like a clean high pull. Very nice. Front foot elevated reverse lunge. Another good exercise. I like that one. I will not be liking or subscribing. Single leg RDL. Good exercise too. Yeah, this is one thing I have a pet peeve of, and I guess you could say, I'm not going to say strength and conditioning now. I guess it's been a thing for a while, but this whole robotic, like pre-planned movement, like everything's so stiff. Like look at this, arms up, we have to do it synchronized. Then we have to do the they call those snap downs, right? If I go play it again, that whole the arms coming down into that squat position, it's like a snap down. And I mean, he's not even jumping. He's just throwing his legs back. But this whole pre-planned, like, it does my head in. Like, athletic movement's fluid, and there's a rhythm to it. And by making it robotic like that, you kill the rhythm, and you kill the flow of the movement. And yeah, I mean, look, they're barely even jumping off the floor. So I don't know what's happening there. I don't know if they just don't have hops, or if whatever they're doing is just that robotic movement is just putting them out of sync where they just can't jump as high. Like, yeah, I don't know what's happening there. But anyways. So now they're doing same thing. The robotic arms, like, have to land in these, that you see it often, like you have to land in that snap down position because it's like the safest position, but never ever has anyone ever landed like that in any sport, ever. And I mean ever. And it's just one of those things that it's stupid. I like when I do a lot of jump training with various athletes, landings, the nicest way, I think, to build that rhythm and to make landings more, I guess, unpredictable, because they are going to be like that in sport. I mean, in combat sports, it's not really going to happen like that, but, you never know, is after the jump, have something that happens after the jump. So if you're doing jumps like these, maybe over each, here dumbbells acting as hurdles, after the last one, you have to turn and touch that hurdle, or turn and touch that dumbbell. And it means that you're not landing in these robotic pre-planned positions, you're landing and having to redirect force. And that's something, you're typically redirecting force between these things, but it's very robotic. Single leg jumps is nice. Medicine ball work, perfect. Everyone should be doing more medicine ball work. Yep, jumps through. So this would be like a regression here. So if you're wondering why he's stopping between each one, so it's like you could say a jump over box. Now the goal would be to get to a point where you can go over the box and then quickly rebound over the next one, and quickly rebound over the next one. It's about having that fluidity and rhythm to be able to get on and off the floor as quickly as possible. And then you're developing that, I guess you could call it, quote unquote, fast stress shortening cycle, or plyometric action. So you're basically working on improving the ability to use elastic energy, versus something like this where it's more stop start. It's called, quote unquote, slower stretch shortening cycle. Still valuable, but it's typically a regression to the other stuff. Got some heavy deadlifts. Nothing wrong with that. Half kneeling dumbbell press. 2 up, 1 down hamstring. So this is another eccentric version of our Nordic curl, but done on a line leg curl machine. So if you don't have a partner, this is one way you can do it. 2 legs up, so you can use heavy weight, and then that one leg just resists down. And then you just repeat. Interesting. So almost like, so we've talked a little bit about Franz Bosch on the podcast, the one with Scott Sev right recently, even with Sean Misko, I think. So typically that's supposed to be done explosively. I don't know if it's being done like this for a specific reason, but I'm not going to dive into it now. It's more running based. It's okay. Interesting with the leg. That's a nice one. Rotational medicine ball slam. Side to side programming, I suppose. Yep. There's definitely some value in some of that work. Rotational medicine balls. Yep. Always love medicine balls. You guys should be using medicine balls all the time in your training. Yeah, this is one of those funny ones. There's some it has some value, definitely. So this is a hang jump shrug. So this is a weightlifting derivative that is a little, I guess you could say, less prominent. It's essentially like breaking down an Olympic weightlifting movement to its very simple part and still getting that explosive element. And then just essentially you're just doing like a hang snatch pull, but you're just jumping with the weight in the end with a shrug. So you can do this pretty heavy too. It's actually a pretty nice exercise to do. Yeah. Becomes a little more hip dominant than some of your other typical jumps. Oh, this guy's just repeating videos. Okay, at least I can skip forward there. So some more hammy stuff. So Swiss ball hamstring curl. Some shuffles. And then some more lateral shuffle work. Yeah, these are actually little fun games. I mean, it's more just general, again, very general, just reacting to what's happening in front of you. But you're not doing it for the reactive element. You're doing it for the developing the ability to move side to side really well. So you're really, you're developing speed and power in that lateral plane versus just going up and down all the time in the gym. So it's all good. We got some heavier squats too. Is there squats too something? Nope, just free weight squats. Solid. Developing strength in those legs. Chin ups. Yep. What else we got going on? Back to our tennis balls again. Again, no real value in my opinion. Especially in the fighting stance too. Yeah, I mean, there is no value at all. What's the point? If you think that's adding any more to his training than what he's already doing, say, in technical training, there's just no way. It doesn't make any sense logically. So what have we got going here? Isometrics, nice. So we just released a podcast with is he doing overcoming that? Wait, is he pushing against something there? I wasn't quite sure. Either way, check out the podcast with Dustin Oranchuk that just dropped as well this week. He is one of the leading isometric training researchers, and he shares some of the newer research coming out on isometric training as well. So check that out. Looks like we've got some jumps with some lateral movement. Finishing with a broad jump. Yep, so this would be like that, as I mentioned, the regression before, this would be like the progression because it's faster ground contacts. We've also added some side-to-side element to it. All good. Rotational slams again. Okay, what else we got? Reverse lunge. Abs. More Nordics. Let's see what else we got. Some side-to-side movement. Maybe this is part of the warm-up before training. Oh my. This is a football thing. But either way, it's fucking stupid in football too. There's no such thing as this feet thing. There's no such thing as fast feet. Fast feet doesn't exist. And I mean, in the sport like combat sports like MMA and stuff, it doesn't exist even further. Yeah, this is, I mean, they could call it speed, agility, and quickness training, but it misses the mark on every aspect. There's no real physical development in that. There's no cognitive development in terms of, reacting to anything related to the sport. So it's just kind of like a time filler. Yep, battle ropes if you're doing some upper body conditioning. There's like a little circuit going on. So battle ropes. Okay, we don't see much of it anyway. And pull aparts, definitely a nice something you can do, especially between sets. If you're trying to, I guess, increase the density of your training or get more stuff done in less in less time, do things like band pull aparts like between. So if you're doing bench press, do band pull aparts between every set, and you're getting a lot of mid and upper back work that you might be missing out on. Trap bar deadlifts with the high handle. Quite like the trap bar deadlift. I definitely prefer the trap bar deadlift over the conventional deadlift for athletes for a few reasons. One being lower back, reduce lower back activation. Typically you lift the trap bar faster, at least within the research. And obviously with the high handles you can reduce the range of motion. Whoa, what the hell is going on here? Okay, that's just crazy to me. Yeah, again, this is just useless. I've talked about why on my reasoning. Yep, clean high pulls, solid exercise. If you're going to work a Olympic weightlifting derivative into your training routine, that's definitely one to work in that clean high pull. And to be honest, I would even say the deadlift after that is redundant. So if you're going to do make a training program and you're going to do something like the clean high pull, I wouldn't even deadlift. I think you end up overloading the lower back and a lot of the posterior muscles that you don't need to, because your number one sport is, or your number one training session, your most important is going to be the combat sport. So you're just overloading those muscles again with a similar movement pattern. Do something completely different after that. So we've got the Kaiser machine. So if you're not familiar with this Kaiser, that little screen there, it shows average power output, or it can show a bunch of things, but typically you're looking at peak and average power output. So you can kind of track what's going on. You can change the resistance with that. So it looks like he's throwing resisted hooks, or very lightly resisted hooks. And because it's not like a cable stack, it's pneumatic. So it's air, so it ends up being a lot smoother. So you can really nail these power movements out of it. It's actually it's a pretty cool little application for it. You could definitely track what's going on there. Some hip work. Is that a flywheel? I'm pretty sure that was a flywheel. Oh my, yeah, it's a little flywheel here. So, love flywheel training. I'm going to put up a little case study soon and some videos of the flywheel life in the garage there, but essentially it is, in my opinion, one of the best pieces of training equipment you can have. Different ranges of prices for things you can get, but very quickly and very short. Actually, if you listen to, I was on the Science for Sport podcast. If you search Science for Sport podcast, I think if you're listening to this, if you're watching this video now, this week, then it'll probably be last week's episode. I was on there. Actually talk a lot about flywheel training too, and I break a lot down there. Rollout, nice little anti-extension, anti-flexion exercise. Inverted rows, I love inverted rows. They suck though. More hamstrings. Damn, he smashes hamstrings. Walking marches. Typically people will do this for kind of like hip and glute. You could say stability, but it's a bunch of different things. Pegboard. Dude, pegboard is so damn hard. Kudos to anyone who can actually do a good pegboard. What else we got going on in this video? More of the Kaiser. Yeah, I quite like this. Probably don't want to put too much load on, but if you're doing it light enough, it might be a good way to track power output throughout training cycles and things, because you can do it relatively easily. Damn, nice. I actually quite like that. What else we got going on? I guess just some shadow boxing. Oh, this must be a throwback. The before and after. This is not a bad squat. So typically, yeah, that's a better one. See how he loses. This is just me nitpicking, but see how he just loses his tightness there out of the bottom. So typically, there's strategies to help if you're maybe struggling with the same thing when you're squatting, is you need to you got to brace through your trunk. So when you think about breathing, don't breathe into your chest, because as soon as you breathe out, then your chest drops. You have to breathe into your lower abdomen, and not just in your belly, but you need to have like 360-degree expansion. So if this is like your trunk, you want to expand everything like this. So when you breathe in, you need to practice like breathing to like your lower back and your obliques and everything. And you need to keep that stiffness and tightness as you come down. So when you bounce out of the bottom or pause or whatever it is and you come up, you maintain that strict posture. Because as soon as you start to fold like this, you're going to either one, run into back problems, or two, you just know severely limit the loads that you're lifting. So just bear that in mind. Hopefully that has some squat tips for you. So we got some bike sprints. Nice. And some air bike sprints. And some rowing sprints. Some kettlebell swings. And then on the stepper, that's everything, I think. Okay, we made it through the video. How about that? So that just kind of breaks everything down there for you. Alex Pereira's, well, what we've seen so far from his training. Hopefully you get an idea into kind of what was going on, why he might have been doing that, some certain things that might have been good, bad, etc. So let me know in the comments if there's something else. Please subscribe. Helps the channel grow. And, you know, I'll look to break down. I mean, seems like this channel here, whatever this channel is, Fightology Boxing, has a bunch of different stuff. So they've got a lot of training footage. So maybe I'll have a look at some of these as well and break these down for you. But yeah, comment below if there's a video that you want me to, and also check out the Sweet Science of Fighting Underground. That's